This week's episode of The Totally Rad Show is brought to you by Axe Arsenal.
GoDaddy.com.
And the National Campaign Against Drink Driving.
Nothing better to do, get abducted by the crew of the Starship Alpha 2. They're from the planet Q, which, due to a space-time loop, is stuck in 82 and must be rescued. They need our heroes to discuss the latest news and give their reviews of games and movies too. Sure hope you're not confused. We swear this is all true, not just the premise to The Totally Rad Show.
Totally Rad Show, Totally Rad, Totally Rad Show, Totally Rad, Totally Rad Show, Totally Rad, Totally Rad Show, Totally Rad Show.
Hey everybody, welcome to The Totally Rad Show, episode number 93. I'm Alex Albrecht.
I'm Jeff Canada.
I'm No Voice Dan Trachtenberg.
And The Totally Rad Show is your weekly dose of all things rad. This week, that means movies, video games, and comics. We brought it all back around, baby.
Loving it.
Realize we haven't done comics in a while.
Too long.
I have to say, I'm very excited.
As am I.
Very excited. Also, Happy New Year.
Yeah, it's almost New Year. And check out this awesome kind of New Year looking awesomeness that Brent Callahan gave us.
Yeah, we love animated stuff.
We sure do.
Animated New Year flair.
We sure do.
Do you guys have any cool plans for the new year?
No, what are you doing? Can you invite me to yours?
Yeah, I'm going to Palm Springs with all my friends.
Are you
anyway, no, I'm just kidding. I'm going with Heather.
Are you going to Palm Springs?
Yeah, we're going to Palm Springs. Yeah, Heather's my fiance. Her stepfather's birthday is the 1st, and so all the family. So like, I have
New Year's baby.
Yeah, so I have like instant, forever going places on New Year's, which is actually really fun. So the family gets together. It's kind of cool. So, you guys enjoy yours.
We'll try. This week in movies, we are talking about the last 2 Oscar potential winning flicks that we're going to get to this year.
Correct.
Because
this is the last show of the year.
Yeah.
So technically, that is how it's going to happen.
The Curious Case of Benjamin Button and The Wrestler, the first one we're going to talk about. Curious Case of Benjamin Button. This is the latest from Seven, Fight Club, Zodiac, David Fincher, and Brad Pitt. It's based on an F. Scott Fitzgerald short story, though I hear it has very little in common with that. I've not read it.
I have not either.
That doesn't surprise me. Most short story moved to movies are like, well, the words "the" and "it" were in both.
And it essentially is about Brad Pitt as born an old man and grows younger over the course of the 20th century. And it's a technical achievement. You know, a lot of people are talking about the effects. They used 4 old man bodies throughout the filming, and they digitally placed Brad Pitt's head on these bodies, amongst lots of makeup effects and all that stuff. So, what did you think of The Curious Case of Benjamin Button?
You know, going in, I think.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
Shut up, Jeff.
It's also written by Eric Roth, who is a Hollywood darling writer, and he's written big movies. The only one that I'm remembering right now, because it's very significant, is Forrest Gump.
Wow, that's actually really funny. That's okay. Don't let your brain hurt you.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I think we've talked about this movie in anticipation several times on the show, and I have always expressed a great deal of excitement about it. And I went into the movie fully expecting it to blow my mind and and be my favorite movie of the year. And I think perhaps that was an unfair level of expectation, because while I did enjoy the movie a lot, it wasn't that. I think this is a story of love across time, maybe not finding it at the right time, but finding it better at other times. That kind of story, which I think has been done better in Forrest Gump. It also has been done better in Time Traveler's Wife, which is a novel that will become a film, and hopefully the film lives up to the novel. There's a lot to like about this movie. I think Brad Pitt's performance is great. I think that Cate Blanchett is the most stunning, beautiful, incredible woman I have ever seen on film. I fell madly in love with her in this film. A lot of her head on other people's bodies also, but there is this beautiful segment in the middle where their lives crisscross and they're together at the right moment and can be in love, and they have nothing, and all they have is this apartment with the mattress in it.
Yeah.
And it is the definition to me of the perfect relationship. And I think, much as I've always said that when I was a kid, the movie Scrooged affected me, because when he looks in on himself and he sees giving gifts at Christmas with the girl, that as a kid was always like, someday that's what a relationship is going to be like.
Yeah, that's
I think
funny.
if I saw this movie at a younger age, I would have thought that about this, because it really is just beautiful and wonderful moment in their lives.
It's interesting, yeah. I kind of had the opposite excitement level. What?
I mean, you weren't looking forward to it?
I wasn't really looking forward to it. We saw the trailers and I was like, oh, it looks odd, but okay, whatever, I'll give it a shot. And I thought it was good. I thought it was really good. You know, I mean, I didn't think that it was a knock out of the park. You gotta see this. Oh man, it's about, change your life kind of movie. But I was blown away by Brad Pitt's performance and the digital effects. Boy, have we come a long way from my favorite scene in Titanic.
Yeah.
Because I honestly was like, how are they even doing that? And
I had the same feeling, and it's rare nowadays
It
to
is
not know
very
how they
rare.
did it.
Very rare.
Yeah.
And also the way that Brad Pitt played himself as a kid. You know what I mean? The way that you saw him start old, and his voice felt old. He felt old. You
But
know
he was
what I mean?
still a kid. He
But
still
was
had
a kid.
youth in him.
Yeah, and it was great. So those moments, I mean, those moments blew me away. I liked the fantasy of the movie. The sort of how is it going to end? What is going to happen? And is it going to be, a good ending, or like what's going to happen? So it was definitely an enjoyable ride, but overall it didn't blow me away by any stretch of the imagination.
I sit perfectly beside you guys, because I really didn't enjoy this movie either. I was very bored.
Well, I wasn't bored.
I felt as if, I guess I was. My expectations were high, unlike you, but
Right.
I didn't think this is best picture material, really.
Yeah.
I mean, it appears that way, but it didn't feel that way. It felt like to me almost as if Eric Roth did not purposefully didn't want to do Forrest Gump again, but I think it would have been better if he had. In terms of Forrest Gump had this fable-like quality to the moments, and it should have had a theme like Forrest Gump, who's this foolish man in this world that brings new the theme of this movie should have been curiosity or something, but there was no. It just sort of meandered for me. It went. The trailer he's in World War II and being shot, and these things.
Yeah.
But
There's no history in
There's
it.
no. You just see glimpses, and every scene. There's nothing interesting happening. The only thing interesting is the concept.
Right.
But his personality, there's nothing really fascinating about his personality. It's just that he's old and growing young.
Yeah.
I will say the last act affected me.
Yes.
Because finally the movie had purpose. It wasn't just scene of a life and scene of a life and scene of a life. It started to really take shape, and it did affect me. Also, I don't know, I wonder if this bothered you. It was shot digitally, as his last films have been, David Fincher, and it really, I wish this movie was shot on film. It was really
Interesting.
lackluster. I did see it projected digitally.
I did not.
I don't, if you didn't notice it,
I didn't.
Sounds like it was probably seeing it, a digital projection of this movie was
That's
the
it,
wrong
but
way
that's
to go.
interesting,
It
because
felt-
you know me, and digital video.
I was very disappointed.
Especially
in that.
action-y stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, there are definitely some sweet moments, you know what I mean? Like, the mother is so sweet, you know, and that whole experience, and...
I was also disappointed with how they ended up going in his baby years, late in life.
Agreed.
Because I was so excited to see the wizardry of how that was going to work.
Yeah, I
It was
agree.
a little bit of a letdown.
Yeah, I agree.
Moving on, we're going to talk about The Wrestler, and this is from Darren Aronofsky, who, you know, he did Pi and Requiem for a Dream and The Fountain, and it's interesting because
Wow.
he is a filmmaker that's similar to David Fincher. I'm going to use a word I used last week. He's an austere filmmaker, like Kubrick, very composed, very
Precise.
precise, austere, symmetrical, balanced frames. And this movie is shot like a documentary. And a documentary on Randy the Ram something, forget his last name.
Richardson.
Played by,
Or Richards.
well, you did just see it.
I did. It's
so.
Richardson or something.
Played by Mickey Rourke. And he's basically a once great wrestler of the 80s and is now sort of washed up and trying to make something of his life and his daughter and all that stuff. So I'm actually going to go to Jeff again because
What?
I know that Jeff has a thing
I do.
for wrestling. And
I don't think you guys even know how much of a wrestling mark I am. I have had twice in my life, I have had subscriptions to Dave Meltzer's Wrestling Observer, Figure 4 Weekly. And
Figure 4 Weekly.
I mean, I'm a huge wrestling
Figure
mark.
4 Weekly.
And what I have loved in the past about the industry is what's a work and what's a shoot. I love when they break kayfabe. That is what I'm into with wrestling. It's the nuts and bolts of behind the scenes. I have said that I don't usually buy DVDs. One of the few DVDs I own is Beyond the Mat.
it's a great documentary.
Great documentary, but I have
I'd like to borrow that, actually.
Oh, you will.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, because that was a huge... Yeah.
So I mean, I really followed the behind the scenes stuff of wrestling. So I think I'm uniquely.
And not just WWE, you follow like Ring of Honor, you're familiar with that stuff.
Oh
too,
yeah,
right?
no, I follow the indie. Not so much anymore, but the industry as a whole, like where guys go back and forth. And this movie is very much inside baseball. It feels like you said, certainly the first half feels like you're watching a documentary, how it's shot, but also the way it doesn't explain stuff for the audience. And I wonder how much of the audience that sees this that doesn't have any vested interest in wrestling, that just thinks it's this fake sport, it'll really sink in because I think this movie's tremendous. I love how Randy the Ram is kind of this amalgamation between Terry Funk and Jake the Snake Roberts and like a little Hulk Hogan thrown in.
Yeah.
Although he said he was modeling him after Lex Luger, which is really tragic
interesting.
if you know what happened to Lex Luger. He's paralyzed now.
Yeah.
I adore this film. I think his performance is wonderful, and it's about redemption and man, I think like I said, I don't know if everybody would have the same experience I did, but for me it was so right what I love.
Well,
Alex, you're someone else.
Yeah, I am someone else. And I mean, I followed wrestling as a kid, but by no means was I into Figure 4 Weekly. Though that is probably the best name for a magazine in the history of magazines. I don't think there's anything that could have been in this movie to make me like it anymore. I just saw it today, and it was mind-blowing. I mean, it was mind-blowingly good. We've seen a lot of Oscar movies, and I'm not a big fan of Make Alex Cry movies, which we've seen like 7 in the last like month, right? So I go into these movies kind of like, this will be an experience, and some of them have been great, and some of them have been okay. This movie was amazing start to finish, at least for me. There were things that I'm sure Dan will tell me other filmmakers have done, like, for me, the jump cuts that he used, when it would go from scene, and it was like, instead of the scene, he pulls up in a car, and he turns off the car, and in most movies you see he gets out of the car, you see him get out of the car, he closes the door, gets his bags, and he starts walking out. At this, it's like, he pulls up into the car, there's a moment, jump cut to he's out of the car walking, and for some reason it kept this like, I don't know, it's just really intense, and I loved it, and a lot of Marissa Tomei naked, which I was very thankful for.
She's gorgeous.
She's
bro.
gorgeous.
She's the hottest.
She's been on my list for a long time, yeah.
Rescue Me.
Yeah.
The Wrestler is my other favorite movie of the year. Milked out The Wrestler. This movie, I agree, amazing. And I was friends with a guy who was a part of Ring of Honor, which is sort of where some of this movie is set in that realm, and went to Japan to wrestle and was a part of the WWE. And from my brief encounters with that, it felt so true. And Mick Foley has just come out and spoke about the veracity of all the things that happen in this movie. But you don't need him to say that because it wouldn't matter if this was completely fake. If this was Quidditch, you know what I mean? Like the performances and everything.
Wow. Wow.
It's amazing.
Wow.
Everything.
Did you write that down?
I want to see
No, that was
Darren
not in my
Aronofsky's Quidditch movie.
The Quidditch.
No, The Seeker.
The Seeker.
Oh,
That is a
man.
movie.
That is so go ahead.
But anyway,
TV show.
amazing. And you know, guys, an East Coast to a T, by the way. If you want to know where we grew up,
Yeah, Jersey,
that's how it looks.
baby.
You know, in some movies, a heroic act is winning the All Valley tournament
Right.
or finding the Ark of the Covenant. And in this movie, it's working at a deli. Like, and it is a very Greek movie, and Marissa Tomei is amazing, and he is amazing, and it's awesome.
Funny that you
So
say that
intimate.
about the deli because when that happened, to me, I really did feel. I was like, he's doing this shit, and he's got a job.
It is such an intimate film too.
Those are such
you
great
have these
scenes.
small little moments with this man in such intimate quarters, and it is such a raw performance.
Yeah, it's
that
very good.
it's not showy. It's not. There are these little moments of humanity and really. You know, when you know the story also of
Mickey Rourke.
you know, it's like it feels so much deeper because it feels like this guy's treading on stuff that he's gone through with substance abuse and all that stuff. It is such a, you really feel like you're right in there with that person, like a documentary.
Evan Rachel Wood was amazing too. She's the daughter. She's
awesome.
amazing.
You know, I've always felt like he's a square filmmaker. Kubrick is a
this
rectangle filmmaker, and he is. And for some reason, when watching the film, I was like, man, he shoots like in squares, and Requiem as well. And this is done in a completely different style, and I love that he can pick the style, and he has this hip hop editing in his other things that he calls it with those quick cuts, and you refer to these jump cuts, but it's still completely different than he's using the tools differently.
And I love that they followed the characters.
Yeah, like you're over behind his shoulder.
Most scenes were behind the shoulder.
So you're
and then
on the
found
journey
it.
with
Yeah.
them.
No, it's this metaphor for the walk through the tunnel.
Yeah.
Dude,
Well,
which is
those
what
two-
those
those two-
but I mean, but the whole movie is that. It's like, also, I read this awesome interview with Mickey Rourke where he talked about the screening that they did where David Fincher and he were having a talk back at the end, and David Fincher goes, "Oh, I just got word that Rowdy Roddy Piper is in the audience."
Darren or
What did I say?
David Fincher.
Oh, I mean Darren Aronofsky.
Yeah,
excuse
yeah.
me. It was weird. David Fincher was there talking about the movie.
They were talking Spanish.
No.
Like-
Pardon me on that. But he said that Roddy Piper was in the audience, and he said he'd never seen Aronofsky get so nervous and like, "Oh, do you want to say something?" And Piper stood up and like started getting emotional about how, you know. And that's the life of so many of these guys. That's the life that they lead, and it's like they punish their bodies for entertainment of these people who.
But it's also
Well, there was even a moment, I have to say, there was even a moment for me as an entertainer, as somebody who that is what I do professionally. There was definitely moments when I was thinking, 20 years from now, what am I doing? You know what I mean? And that to me was the most.
There's stuff. It's not
And
just.
that was like,
it's
yeah.
not just
Cool,
if you're
cool.
fascinated about wrestling. You don't have to be Roddy Piper
No.
to empathize with the character because it's also about the smaller moments in life that are
God.
what make heroism and it's
Family
standing up
and-
against things and deciding to do things that are very difficult. Where you work, it's all relatable because
Yeah.
everything is just
was
so well written and performed. and
Amazing.
made.
Amazing.
Video games!
So the last few weeks, months even, we've been talking about
Years.
the torrent of high-level video games that have come out before the holidays. So if you're like us, the holidays have come and gone, and basically spent all our money on video games. So I thought, what better way to have a last show of the year than to talk about a game that's absolutely free, that everybody can try. And it's a game called Auditorium that we've been playing. And it's a Flash game by a group called Cypher Prime, I believe. And this is a really interesting, unique, casual game experience. In fact, it's not, what we've played is not the full release yet. They're releasing this for free, and they're asking for donations, and it's just a small percentage of what that final game will be. But what it is a game where you basically bend light particles in order to fill up these audio boxes to create this orchestral music. And the way you do that is you have different spheres that do different things to the light particles. It'll make more sense seeing the video behind us.
Can I say puzzle game?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
about
Well, what do you-
what
what-
he said.
A puzzle game about bending light particles
because it-
around.
But you gotta figure out how to.
You definitely described the experience of it, and this game is amazing both orally and visually. You were,
Use your words.
and it's an experience. Just playing it puts you in a mood and all that stuff. But it's also a really fun, challenging, how to get A to B to C puzzle game.
Yeah.
You know? And I loved it. I mean, this is up my alley certainly, and
blessed with music.
And the music is sort of like, I know I'll butcher the name, but like Jean-Michel Jarre, I think that's how you pronounce it.
Oh, you mean down.
What?
Jean-Michel Jarre. Jean-Michel Jarre.
Is that how you pronounce it? I always thought it was Jean-Michel Jarre.
You probably.
But I don't know.
What you say sounds more.
You guys aren't talking about Jean-Michel Vincent, right?
Yes.
He,
It's the Airwolf
he
thing.
does songs on like Pure Moods and stuff. It's new agey.
Yeah, actually I own a CD of his, but I bought it a long time ago.
He does have that.
But it's
one-
very new agey.
Exorcism. He did the Exorcist, Tubular Bells. Isn't that him?
Okay. I don't know.
Okay. Gorgeous music, gorgeous looking, and really
It gets to
fun
the point
puzzles
where,
to solve.
where there's different colors of light and you have to filter them through colors, and it's really spectacular at a certain point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you like it?
I loved it. I mean, you know, especially because this game completely speaks to me, which is you sit down and you can play it for 10 minutes and get so much of an enjoyable experience out of it. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And it was difficult. It was not. I mean, it started off like, oh, I see. I just put the ball here and the thing goes through.
Yeah. And then it gets
swoosh-
crazy.
The
Yeah.
swoosh thing made it like.
Oh, bro. Well, first off, I don't know about you guys, but even before the first light particles got, I just took all 3 or 4
Yeah,
or
separate
5 and
them.
just like, whoop!
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, nothing's touching anything.
What do I have?
What do I have? I've got a leftsies and rightsties and thingies. So it was really fun because it was challenging, but also it was soothing. Just the act of playing it was comforting.
Yeah.
You know, and Heather came in and was like, what is that you're playing? It's just so like, because it's melodic. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just sort of like, and you're
And
sort
even
of
when you're
building
challenged,
as you're playing. Yeah.
even when you're challenged to the point of I don't know how to do this, you're still kind of soothed.
Yeah, it's right. It's like, oh, that's frustrating.
Yeah. Yeah, and it really
it was
does a
really
great
fun.
job of exploring all the subtleties of. They have this given situation, and there's this really cool way of exploring what.
Do you want me to say what I'm like?
No, I don't.
No, we'll talk about it.
Anyway, it's a great game and it's totally free. So it's playauditorium.com is how you get to it, and you can check it out yourself, and then maybe you'll be compelled to donate.
I'm laughing because we recently had an interview, and we told.
Didn't we just agree that we didn't want to hear why he's laughing?
No.
And we were
Wait,
we were
yeah.
saying dirty secrets, whatever, and I ousted that I like Enya, and I've
Right.
listened to Yanni, and Jeff on the phone goes, you guys were all laughing. And
No, I didn't. I said
and
I
he's-
own Live at the Acropolis.
Right, but you said under your breath, and we were already moving on. And then you just said, I actually own John Michael.
I said I own Live at the Acropolis. What a more
I'm gonna let
embarrassing
these
thing
two
is
guys
that?
fight at it.
Wait, no, we're not
Oh,
even close to done. I wanted to bring up this idea of
Free music.
free, because like I think a lot of 2008 has been about the maturization of the microtransaction model. You know, you have all these. MMOs in Korea that are basically funded completely on microtransactions.
Yeah.
That really hasn't permeated here too much. Although I'm very
yet.
interested. I would love to hear people's recommendations for a free MMO because I'd love to have us try one.
Guild Wars,
But,
right? That's the big one.
Well, it's not. You buy it initially, and then it's free to play.
Isn't EVE Online?
Yeah, but we're gonna let the people. That's not what we're talking about now. What
Wait,
we're
I
talking
wanna
about
guess
now
what they're
is-
gonna say.
You know, we talked about Need for Speed Underground or Undercover, for example, and what didn't come up in our review was that you pull into a shop and it says, do you want to use the points you've accumulated in the game, or do you want to use Microsoft points that are actual cash money to upgrade your car? And I think that's where gaming is going, and I want to know what you guys think about that. How would you rather pay for games? Would you rather play it, and then if you like it, you buy little bits to add on, or would you rather pay by subscription? I mean, because there's a lot of ideas of just paying a subscription and you get,
Here's the
episodic gaming. Whatever.
Yeah. Here's the thing that I have. I don't like spending money.
Well,
Period. And I really don't like spending money on things that you used to not have to spend money on. It was a big barrier to entry for me to start playing an MMO. Big barrier. I mean, I don't think people realize how big a barrier of entry that was for me. Same with Xbox Live. Big barrier for entry to me. Because this is stuff that should be free, in my opinion. But my opinion can and does change. I think I would be completely satisfied paying for certain things, and I'm just thinking about WoW right now because I pay a subscription for WoW and multiple accounts on WoW, so I pay a lot of money to WoW. And I think that I would be okay at paying for certain things. My problem comes in with things like what I'm worried about home with, which is there is a free one. There is a way to play this game for free, but if you really want to experience this, if you really want to enjoy it, it'll cost you. That, to me, I hate that. I would rather be forced to pay $15 and not have to worry about it than to go, well, but I don't, I wouldn't want to play WoW where if you wanted to get tier 7 shoulders, it's going to cost you $20.
right.
That to me is broken because I should be able to have the same experience.
But
as
what
someone who's
about-
paying
I
for
mean,
free, but I don't
Xbox
mind
Live
paying
does
for stuff.
that.
The idea behind.
Xbox Live does that.
We haven't talked about Battlefield Heroes.
They have a silver account. It's for free, but you get
you can't play
almost
online.
Nothing. You can only play online like weekends, or it's like horrible.
Yeah.
Right, but
And the golden-
Xbox Live is.
We haven't talked about Battlefield
Right,
Heroes, but it
I've seen
is that model where the actual gameplay mechanic is you're never gonna get a gun by paying for it that you can't get playing for it.
that I don't.
But it's all cosmetic. And I think that's basically what home is. It's all cosmetic stuff that they want you to pay for.
Right, but home, its only reason for being is for people to see you in that space.
Yeah.
Whereas Battlefield Heroes, you're there to do another thing. It's just that if you want to look cool, and that's a choice. But with home, the only thing that it does is to have yourself represented digitally. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So in
That's
that
it.
way, that's it.
Yeah.
But whereas Heroes, it's like, I got a gun. Oh, I put a sticker on it because it's cool. I would do that.
But if you're not paying that initial $60 to get it, and you're only paying here and there, you may end up spending less money overall.
I agree, or more. And
Or
they
more.
win.
Right.
So
Well, it's interesting. First of all, I think it's totally cool with cosmetic, buying cosmetic upgrades. It's choice.
yeah.
I wonder what happens. And by the way, you kind of can do that. You can kind of get games on subscription basis now with GameFly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't work that well, so we don't use it. But if it did, we
They're-
could
they're
basically just pay
actually
a
sponsoring
monthly
this show, so we
fee.
should- I'm just kidding.
We could pay a monthly fee
Yeah.
and never have to actually buy a game.
Yeah.
But if it gets to the point where I thought it was in Undercover, where you pay for an upgrade and your car goes faster when you race against other cars.
I mean, that's how it is.
I mean, that's like real life. I mean, you pay more money to spruce up your, dub
Right.
your car or whatever. Dub your dubs, I don't know.
No, that's not offensive at all, Dan.
So, so then I think it gets into sketchy ground because then it's like Fast Pass at Six Flags. It's like only people that can afford it get to cut in line to the beginning. You know what I mean? And everyone else has
Yeah.
to. And it's like, what, if you could pay your way to, in an online deathmatch, win better. 'Cause
Yeah,
you could
right.
buy a better
Well,
gun.
I think that, that's a game balancing thing, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I think one of the best games this year that I enjoyed playing was Age of Conan, and I would continue playing it, except for the fact that if I'm going to play it, I have to decide, yes, I'm going to pay a subscription every single month for this game, whether or not I play it or not.
Right.
So I had to cut that game out of my life. and it's an ongoing issue, and we don't have time to get super into it.
I think
but
they win more than they lose with that. Otherwise, they wouldn't. I think that's sort of the
Well, I
plan is
think
they
certain
suck
games
people
win
back
more
in.
than they lose on that. Yeah, I mean that's what with World of Warcraft, with the Wrath of Lich King coming out. One of the things that was the reason why they keep doing that is to suck back in those level 70s that drop off.
But that's the problem is that there just isn't. It's just not possible to play multiple MMOs. It's not possible to have multiple monthly fees going because I'm like I can't do that.
I'll tell you, I was tempted to buy the new Portal, Still Alive, but they bundled it with other things that made it more expensive. If I could have just bought just the new levels for $5 instead of paying $10 for the new levels and the original game on Xbox Live, I would have done it. I would have spent $5 for more levels.
I want to focus more in the show on free games. So if there's great free games, I heard about Auditorium from a viewer, so thank you. And send in suggestions of free games. 'Cause I'd love to talk about them
I'd
more.
love
in
to
this
play
game.
some more.
Yeah.
It's been a long time since we talked about comics, but as always, I would love to say at the top, if you want to see more comic stuff, check out our buddies over at iFanboy. They do a comic show every week, and it's great. I check it out myself. So I realized that, we've been doing comics for however long, and we never talked about Superman,
The Man of Steel?
the original superhero. So we have to remedy that situation today. And I thought a good place to start would be All-Star Superman, which is a book by Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely. And these are the team that did, they revitalized New X-Men, and they did a great book, which I know Dan loves too, called We Three, which I highly
Oh
recommend if you
yeah,
haven't checked
with
it
the
out.
dog, the cat, and the bunny.
Bunny.
Yeah.
And this is an attempt, the All-Star line, there's also All-Star Batman.
Making a movie out of We Three.
Oh, that's cool.
Cool. And I think Grant Morrison wrote the script.
Yeah.
Oh.
So the goal with the All-Star line was to create a continuity-free version of the big heroes so people could just pick up these stories and check them out. And Grant Morrison has gone on record and said that his plan with All-Star Superman was to create timeless Superman tales. We read the first trade, which I think is only the first 6 issues. And a lot of those are like one-offs, and they examine some of Superman's supporting cast, Jimmy Olsen and Lois Lane and stuff. But I think the meta story is this idea of Superman knowing that he's going to die and him kind of putting his affairs in order. Alex, I know you love superhero stuff. I'd love to hear your take on this story, particularly from an artistic standpoint, because I think the art, Frank Quitely has a very, very unique style. And I think it's off-putting to some people. It's not really realistic. It's very detailed, but almost exaggerated in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it was a little bit like artsy caricature. You know what I mean?
Like Superman has a giant chin.
Yeah, but still very realistic in everything he did. I wasn't in love with this. I enjoyed it. I liked it a lot. And some of the stories spoke to me more than the others. The Jimmy Olsen thing, the Lois Lane one.
Where she sort of gets Superman's superpowers for a little while.
Loved it. But yeah, I just didn't connect, and I don't know quite why it was. There was something about the writing style that seemed a little bit like trying to be super realistic and casual, but not sort of making it for me. And maybe it was that the situations were sort of more one-offy, that it couldn't really tie me in. So I don't really know. I mean, I definitely enjoyed the experience, and I wouldn't say that the art style was off-putting to me, but I didn't care for it all that much. So it didn't like turn me off to the book, but I was like, it wasn't something that drew me in either. You know what I mean? So it was like neutral.
Okay, what did you think, Dan? I know this is not really your kind of thing on the get-go, right? superhero, big man punching little man.
I'm surprised that the art is said to be off-putting to some people because I loved the art, and I thought it was the best thing in this, best part of this comic. I didn't really enjoy the comic at all. My thing with Superman is I think there's only two ways to tell a good Superman story, and one is his origin, and the other is forget about his powers and how cool they are and the grand things they do and give him moral dilemmas, because he can always trump a power and it doesn't matter. It's about the decision making.
Right.
There was none of that in this. I really,
Yeah, you know,
I didn't like anything.
I agree that my favorite part of this was the art. Every page I turned, I was excited to see what Quietly was going to do because his stuff is so dynamic and detailed, and he has interesting layouts, and it's always, especially the stuff they did in, for instance, We 3, where you turn a page and it's like this incredible splash page.
It almost looks like 3D at some points.
Yeah. And I agree that it was tough to swallow. I found the later stuff in this trade better than the first few issues, and I think even after this trade, there's 6 more issues that have come out, and I think those are even stronger than the ones we read. But for the most part, I felt like he was trying to capture this like 1940s take on Superman and trying to like kind of re-find that voice,
like that camp, but yet. And then modernized it. Maybe that's what I was having a problem with.
It felt weird to me also, and I wouldn't say if somebody was looking for a great Superman story, I would not recommend this. I would, however, highly recommend the next one we're going to talk about, which is one of my favorite comic books ever, and it's also one of my favorite Superman stories. It's called Superman Secret Identity, and it's by one of my favorite comic book writers and one of my favorite comic book artists. The writer is Kurt Busiek, and the artist is Stuart Immonen, and thanks to Josh for the pronunciation on those. Josh from iFanboy helped me out with that. And Busiek has written some of my favorite comics of all time. Marvels, which is a book everybody should read immediately. And another book called...
okay. I was just about to go read Marvels. I didn't know what he meant.
And a book called Astro City, which I adore also, which you still need to read.
Oh yeah, we haven't read that.
Yeah, we should all read it. Anyway, Busiek is one of my favorite writers. He's a guy he's had a lot of health problems, but when he's writing, he writes some of the most grounded, realistic, interesting takes on superheroes that you can find. And this is exactly that. It's the story of a guy named Clark Kent who lives in our world. It's very much now. And he grew up in Kansas, so it's a guy named Clark Kent growing up in Kansas. Of course, he gets made fun of, and everybody says, "Oh, you look like Superman." Well, one day, he wakes up to discover he actually has Superman's powers. And it's 4 issues that were released in, a few years ago.
2004.
2004. And it kind of takes place over his entire lifetime as his life sort of mirrors Superman's in a lot of ways, but it's a very grounded, realistic take on what this might be like for a person living in our world trying to live with Superman's powers. And one of the reasons I really wanted to talk about it is I suspected that it might be something that you would enjoy, Dan, and I'm hoping that I'm right.
Well, I've talked a lot about the kinds of comics that I like on the show, and we've joked about how they're not man-in-tights books. One of the only man-in-tights books that I liked, and which is one of my favorite comics, is Superman for All Seasons, which is Tim Sale and Jeff Loeb.
Right.
And that's an origin story, and that's a father-son story. And I loved this comic so much.
When I was reading it, I was like, Dan's
It does the one kind of Superman story I like. It's basically one long origin story.
Well, but it's an entire life.
Right, but
yeah.
It's an all-encompassing story of Superman's life. Or
A Superman's life.
And for my money, they're trying to make another Superman movie, and I say make it a trilogy, and do it with Tony Gilroy, the guy that did Michael Clayton and wrote Bourne.
That would be
It's amazing.
crazy.
It is. It's an interesting, fantastical idea, and it's an interesting human idea that you can relate to. in so many ways, and I can't even relate to everything yet. When I'm older, I'll get this book much more than what I get now. And actually, I think every 5 years I could read this series and get more and more out of it and find more and more really resonating stuff in it. It's awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah, blew my mind. Best comic I've read in a very long time, if not ever. I literally was reading it and at times would just go, like, that is perfect. Perfect. The way that he actually gets a person who hates the fact that he's associated with Superman to then involuntarily parallel his exact life, and not only involuntarily attempt to not. I mean.
And it's a concept.
crimes.
It's a concept. It's a concept that you should be calling bullshit on from the. You should be like, this is ridiculous.
And yet,
but it works.
And he figures out a way to get it so that you not only say bullshit, you say, not only do I believe that, but I want that to happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it was just so. And every single thing that the guy does, like, he ends up working in a newspaper, and you're like, what? How did that? And it's completely understandable. And the journals, the way he writes the journals,
By the way,
amazing.
the art
Amazing.
is amazing.
We can't overlook that.
No.
It's his very realistic style.
Did he do?
It almost looked like Jinx
real
photos,
people?
but
Well, he's very famous for picking an actor and casting them in that role and drawing what he thinks that.
Interesting.
And he has done that a lot.
So it was just.
So,
that.
but it was
wasn't
drawing,
real
wasn't
pictures.
I don't know for sure. I don't know enough about it to be
And the
sure.
the pacing of the panels,
Yeah.
like he saved reveals for when you turn the page,
which
it
is
wasn't
great.
just
And I was
over.
actually going to bring that up because one of the things that I don't know if I'm supposed to do, but just happens to me by nature,
Priscilla does this too.
is I open the book and I can't help but experience the entire pages.
Yeah.
And so there's so many comics that I'm trying to read through here and I just look over and I go, oh, so that's happening in like 4 sentences.
I try to not do that.
I
yeah.
cannot- I
But
can't
but
avoid
this
it, but
guy
this- it was
safeguards
ve-
it for you.
it was
Priscilla
very-
turns the next.
Oh, she actually like looks
Yeah, she'll like,
forward?
look to the next page and then go back.
Well,
and
now
it
that's
turns
just-
into
I think
the
maybe
song.
we need to read more Busick because the
do.
way you guys responded. Have you read Marvels?
Marvels
Yes, but
or
just the
Marvels?
first-
Marvels.
Okay.
Okay. I think maybe the next comic segment will be
I
Marvels
was
and
young
Astro
and I was
City.
looking at the art.
Because
yeah.
he's a very special writer.
Honestly, I thank you for having me experience this. It was such a joy, such a joy.
Awesome.
So, before we get to our email, we do want to thank our sponsors, such lovely sponsors as Axe Arsenal. So the guys over at Axe have put together a group of widgets to help guys get and keep girls.
Keep girls.
Keep girls.
That's the key.
That's the key. So you can actually download them for free. They're very interested to get the beta. It's in beta.
You know what I bet isn't part of the Axe Arsenal?
What?
Talking in a husky whisper voice.
Oh, you.
You know what? that may be in the Hookupopedia, and I'll tell you about that in a second.
What is
but
that?
you can head over to revision3.com/axe /axe to download these apps. So, 3 apps we'll talk about real quick. Hookupopedia, which is basically a Wikipedia for how to get and maintain girls and girlfriends.
You know, some people when they say hook up, they mean sex. Hook up for us was making out. And here they're saying hook up is just get together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's different for everyone.
The word hookup for Hookupopedia.
Look it up. Look it up in the PDF.
Look it up in the Hookupopedia. Also, they have the Create a Date. That's not what it's called. Date Creator. All of a sudden, I was like, what's it called? The Date Creator, which is powered by Yelp. Right? Now, have you guys used Yelp?
Yeah, for
There you go.
restaurants.
Right, exactly. So rather than just going to dinner and a movie, here are a bunch of suggestions on how to make a memorable date and also see user comments on different areas that you can go to and events and things like that. Great resource.
If there's one thing I have learned in my life, the best thing you can have for a date is a plan of where to go. The last thing you want is to go, would you like to go out?
Agreed.
Sure. Well, where would you like to go?
Chicks always say they love just spontaneous.
No.
But
you can make it
you gotta
spontaneous,
know.
but just don't.
You gotta know where you're
Yeah,
going.
yeah.
And that's what it's
It's
all
like
about.
documentary style.
And also, as you just saw,
plain.
they have Connect a Friend. Connect a Friend, you can use Facebook, MySpace to get your friends together so you can actually be whatever the Yiddish word for matchmaker is.
It's matchmaker.
Oh, that's what it was. I'm sorry. Okay. So check it out, revision3.com/axe.
It's Bubby.
Also,
They know what I'm talking about. Jews know.
we love them, you love them. It's GoDaddy. If you want a domain name, there is only one place to go to get that. It's GoDaddy.com, and there's only one promo code to use, and it's TRS1 or 2 or 3. So maybe there's several promo codes to use. The point is, GoDaddy is where we use to buy our domain names. It is the best place. They will hook you up. They will make sure, they'll call you to make sure everything's working great. Amazing services. And if you use our promo code, you're gonna get some money off. So why don't you do that? TRS1, TRS2, there's a whole lot of TRS numbers.
Try them all. It's like Pokemon.
guys.
You gotta try them all.
I have a moral riddle for you.
Oh, here we go.
If aliens came to Earth,
I
Right.
think this was last
they could
week.
grant you faster travel.
Yeah.
But they could
I would
kill-
wish for more wishes.
they could, you don't get that.
That's what I would wish for.
get that.
Take that, alien.
They don't grant you
No,
wishes.
take that,
They
alien.
don't offer you wishes. They say they would give you faster travel, but they get to kill 50,000 people at random.
Why do they want to do it? Who are these effed up aliens
And when
that you
did
always
Dan become Joan Rivers?
The answer should be, okay, what would you do? Would you take them up on their offer?
I would, if it was faster.
Alex wants to guess where he's going.
Well, you know what?
We already
did, because it's cars. But here's the thing.
Wait, the movie?
The National Council for Drink Driving is informing you that while 50,000 people, or somewhere around the bouts there, die a year from car crashes, 32% of that, which is massive,
That's a big percentage.
die from drink driving. So not just drunk driving, having taken a sip driving.
It really does impair your driving. I was watching this actually. There's a study that was done where a guy would just do a shot. He felt fine, and then
Yeah.
he would drive through this obstacle course, and it really does impair your driving.
Yeah.
I think we should get drunk and go kick the crap out of those aliens, because those guys are douchebags.
Dude, done.
Anyway, wear
I'm
a
drunk
seatbelt.
now.
If you don't wear a seatbelt, you're a freaking
Oh,
idiot,
bro.
or you're a baby. But whatever.
hopefully you'll have parents that are nice and put
Wear
you
a
in even
seatbelt.
better seatbelts.
Get someone to drive you home if you can't drive home.
Yeah.
Yeah, we joke around a lot, but New
no,
Year's
no.
Eve is very soon.
That's one of
There's
the
gonna be
biggest times of
a
the year
lot of
for
people.
that.
I mean, aside from the fact that people are gonna die,
Yeah.
there are way more cops out on the road New Year's Eve. There's
Yes.
checkpoints. You may just lose your license. It's not worth it.
And I will say this also for LA, it's worth taking a cab. With the cost of, by the time you pay valet and gas right now, take a cab. It's actually really relaxing too, because you're like, oh, I can just hang out, I don't have to worry about anything, get in a cab when I'm ready to go home. Anyway.
Or designated
Or a
driver.
limo.
Yeah, or a designated driver, or a limo,
Or take a helicopter.
or a helicopter.
Theo
Don't
did.
drive that
Like,
helicopter.
remember when Theo did that in Cosby Show to the prom?
No.
He took a helicopter and then he showed up with like hair out the.
That's funny.
Oh, Cosby.
All right, well, let's get to the email, shall we?
An hour later.
All
yes.
right. Hey, TRS dudes, I love the show so much, been watching since the beginning, that I forced myself to watch them in order and just finished episode 36.
Wow.
So he'll never see this. He'll see this 3 years later and be like, my email!
That's funny, dude.
Anyway, I started watching from the beginning, but you guys kept recommending too many great shows, so I finally just completed all the seasons of Avatar and of The Shield.
2 excellent choices.
One, yes, and the other as well. The way Jeff ranted about how much he hates movie trailers. Okay, I get this now because that was a while back.
Yeah.
Today just got me thinking of my question. My question's kind of deep.
It's like a time traveling.
I know,
email.
it's crazy. But we haven't seen it discussed much by people. Most people just take it for granted. Why are spoilers such a big deal? Personally, I find myself better able to enjoy a film I already know and can expect its big surprise moments. I can focus more on character development and the emotions of the events elicited by the actors and writing more so than my own surprised emotional response. Ryan, P.S. Here's a picture of me eating my wonderful girlfriend, Amy.
It's really what it is.
That's amazing. This is an interesting concept.
It
because
is. And
I
to a
don't know
certain-
if I've ever seen anybody or met anybody who said, yes, tell me about the end of The Sixth Sense. I think I would enjoy the movie more.
And to a certain extent, you really can't argue with personal preference, because if it's that person's preference, by all means, they have every right to have that preference.
Sure, so maybe
But
we
I-
should talk about our personal preferences.
As I've said many times on this show, I think one of the worst things you can do to me personally is to spoil a narrative experience. And I think the reason that I feel that way is that the emotional investment that I get out of not knowing where I'm going to end up, and I think the best kinds of movies are when I don't know going in what I'm going to get, because it's a surprise and I don't anticipate. I don't try to. I can play the game of figuring it out and without knowing that I'm right or wrong. It's that suspense that I can maintain throughout the entire experience that I think gives me a far richer experience in the movie or book or whatever it is.
Right.
And when you know where you're going to end up, you can either not be emotionally, like if you find out a character's going to die or something.
Right.
You don't get as emotionally invested in that
random
character
like that.
because you know it's going to end up dead. You know?
Right.
Well, there's something, though, to be said. Let's take the movie The Prestige, for instance, where when you watch it the first time and surprises happen, there's a pleasure that you get from that surprise washing over you. Or The Sixth Sense is a better example. From that surprise washing over you that you will never have ever again in your life.
You get it once.
You get it
Right.
once.
Or The Usual
But-
Suspects, for that matter.
Right.
Or The Usual Suspects.
Or Peter Pan.
Or Citizen Kane. But for that matter, when you watch a movie the second time, it's a whole new set of pleasures. Where you
Good, well
see,
said.
where you know where it's going, and you're seeing how they made that happen, how they planted that seed. And both are enjoyable experiences, but one you can only have once.
And
Well,
that one,
but
and
I
when-
will say, hold on, to play devil's advocate here, the other one, there is a third experience, which you are not experiencing, which is the experience of knowing the meat of what is going to happen, but not knowing the beat by beat experiences of the acting, the writing, what is happening scene by scene, but just knowing that one thing. And what I would actually venture to say is, I don't think I am equipped to be able to even offer my opinion on this, because I only know one side of it, which is not having things spoiled. To be fair, Steve had an experience with The Usual Suspects that, you know, that is the only way. I almost feel like we would need to have something spoiled and be watching it for the first time.
had things
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
See with the fingers?
I do. But yeah, no, I think why in general most people don't like spoilers is because I think it's innately human to want newness, to want
Agreed.
something new out of everything. You like the comforts of old,
Right.
but you also want new. And so, you know, spoilers spoil what's new to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that taking away that one-time experience is a theft, an act of theft to me. Like
or
you
have
stole
left
my ability.
something out too long and it has gone bad or spoiled. Well, thank you, Ryan. If you'd like to have your email read on the show, please feel free. Send it to fans@totallyradshow.com.
And Ryan, if you're seeing this, tell future us what it's like.
Should we be investing in bread?
No, he's in the future when he's saying this. He's in our future.
Oh, yeah.
I know.
He should, like, call us.
Tell us to go in the machine.
Yeah. Hilarious.
Put us in the light goo.
Also, you should send us a background. We love getting. Look at this freaking awesome animated background. So rad.
So good.
We love getting backgrounds. Send them to fans@totallyradshow.com. Also, join our forums, participate.
Oh, I said old Callahan's better at making backgrounds than he is making brake pads.
Ba-dum-bum.
That was interesting.
Actually, Callahan makes some good brake pads.
Yeah, go to our website and see the movie we're going to talk about next week, right, Dan? And in fact, I can tell you that the movie this week is going to be Valkyrie, because
And
Defiance. Because What's better than one World War II movie? Two World War II movies.
Also, even though the new year has come, you may still want some TRS swag. So, head over to jinx.com/TRS and get yourself a hoodie, shirt, or other.
If you're cold, let me just tell you, the hoodie is very warm and cozy, gunchy.
Also, we have
Gucci,
we
whatever
have
that-
very few days until our big year-end extravaganza, intimate gala, we like to call it.
I love that.
Or you do.
I just called it. So I believe until the 1st, we're still accepting applications. Go to revision3.com/TRS2008 to put in your bid to come to our very small show where we are doing very big things.
Very good way to put it, sir. Also, follow us up on Twitter if you want to watch the day-to-day ramblings of 3/4 morons. Well, I guess one moron with 3 friends. Twitter.com. Twitter.com/Alex Albrecht.
/Jeff Canada.
/Danny TRS.
Save your voice. /Steve TRS. Well, that is it for this week's edition of The Totally Rad Show. I am Alex Albrecht.
Well, I'm Jeff Canada.
I'm Dan Trachtenberg.
3, 2, 1. Happy New Year!
This happened. Axe Arsenal is this new group of basically like widgets.
Start over, dude.
What happened?
With me.
You can actually download them for free at revision3.com.
I didn't do it this time. I didn't do it this time.
So Axe Arsenal is put together. Well, Axe has put together.